This clip is brought to you by SaveWithConrad.com.
And delivering big bumps and hard hits, and you're talking backstory. Well, yeah, you remember last year, it was in June. I don't give a shit about last year. Why don't you tell me?
Actually, I watched a couple of episodes of Raw recently to review for my podcast, which did very well. And also, you go to official Jim Cornette on YouTube and hear those very episodes. But I digress. I actually didn't even listen to them because I just did. The tone of their voice was not telling me that there was a lot of important stuff going on at that particular time, and I was trying to watch everything else that I had an issue with or was trying to critique or actually liked in a few cases. They just didn't connect that they were telling me something on the sperm of the moment. They were reading notes.
Well,
and I've always said that for the announcers, sincerity is the key. When you can fake that, you got it made. No, the announcers in any sport, to me, have to come off as somewhat more knowledgeable about what they're talking about than the average person watching television. But they also have to come off as if they care about it and it's happening in front of them rather than just something that they're trying to sell.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's an expose because the announcers largely know how long the match is going to go. Lawler and I did our best work by not knowing the finishes, and because sometimes you bounced around, you bounced till you understood, but all the machinations of a finish, and to go like Cowboy would do, it taking 30 minutes to get through the heat, then the comeback, and then he had everything measured out, everything was calculated. Well, I can't work that way well on my job description. I need to be spontaneous and surprised, et cetera, et cetera. But my point I was going to make is, it's not up to us announcers to determine what's good stuff in the ring or what isn't. Our obligation is to put the best lyric we can to that music, no matter if it's good music or not. It's our obligation to make it to get the talent over. That's always going to be the goal. And when the guys are bouncing around and they're selling, it goes to say this. I said this on Twitter the other day. A lot of wrestlers perceive selling as a sign of weakness. It's not. It's an art form. And so if you're talents are selling and the announcers are ignoring it, so you're ignoring it. You're ignoring the pain and the agony and the blues and the challenge of humanity on this baby face or whatever it may be that you want people to have empathy for. And so you decided arbitrarily, well, that's not really a big match, and I know they're not going home yet, so I kind of know what the finish is. Really, it's just.
Oh, yeah, well, no, that's another thing. Yeah, it's like they've still got 10 more minutes. So I got plenty of time to get more stuff in.
Well, I just don't think it's good, and I'm not knocking the guy's efforts, but here's my point. I guess I should have made this from the beginning of my statement. The announcers today, by and large, are creatures of a unique environment in today's wrestling, and when you start discounting selling and Jeopardy. I don't know how many times the guys go for a false finish, and the color guy is still talking when the referee's count is affected, impacted. Like you get a 1, and now the color guy will get interrupted by the play-by-play guy, as if they couldn't see it's a false finish. If it's football and they throw the goddamn ball into the end zone, it might be a touchdown, or it might be an interception. But it's something to not ignore. That's all I'm saying.
Well, yeah, and I think that the announcer's knowledge, like you said, of that. Well, this isn't it, comes through, and even the stuff that I learned from you, and that's another thing. When I watched Raw, a lot of the things I learned about doing wrestling on television that I learned from Vince McMahon, they're not doing anymore. But even if it's a sudden small package and the color guy's talking, he still just doesn't keep going. He stays. Somebody, you've got to bust in. You've got to say something about it. You've got, oh my gosh, could this be? Everything has to focus on that rather than. And he was third in his class in
that's
squash.
It. And look, and knowing all the guys you've known, I would love that stuff more than anybody. I love the background and all that stuff, but God Almighty, I used to tell people this all the time. And of course, they in my the last few years, I haven't been used a lot, but bottom line is you can get a lot of that stuff in, Corny, on the entrance. If you're succinct and you're prepared and you've organized your thoughts on what you're going to say as that talent or talents roll out to the ring, then you've been lazy and you haven't done your job. But by the time the bell rings, if I was if somebody asked me, I say, by the time the bell rings to start the match, all your background stuff, the major things have been established.
Yeah, and then you've got, if it's a long title match, you've got a little early feeling out period to expand on what you've done. But like you said, the entrances, he's a 4-time All-American from the University of Oklahoma. He's the current Mid-South champion, and he tonight will face the blah, 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 blah. And you've set a scene with those guys' entrances, the introductions, and what it means by the time that they lock up.
Yep, you're right. Hey, tell me, before I let you go here, Corny's on Twitter, of course, folks, at the Jim Cornette. Cornette.
There's always a danger I could be kicked off at any moment. You know, I was kicked off for a week when I found out that the people in South Korea eat 2 million dogs a year, and I suggested that maybe we could bomb both the Koreas. They kicked me off for a week on that. But at the Jim Cornette is the Twitter handle.
Yeah. Check that out. It's fun. That you may not know all the current names for a basic maneuver that you and I have called for 30 years. Headlock is now something else, or I'm being facetious in that analogy. But seriously, everything's got a name now, and the same moves by different talents have different names. I find it to be a little bit markish, quite frankly. I mean, not being fully transparent here, but doing that with the New Japan guys. They got their names are holding. I had a hell of a time just pronouncing their names, and I'm not saying it disrespectfully. But when that's not part of your nomenclature, it's not part of your daily verbiage or vocabulary. It's a learning curve. And
well, I look at it like this, and about the second or third match that I called the other night at the MLW event was a high-level lucha match with the Lucha Brothers and Laredo Kid and Taurus with the Bull outfit. It gave me Mantar flashbacks for a second, but no, these guys really know what they're doing. And see, a lot of people, I'll answer your question in a second, but a lot of people were like, well, Corny hates that flippy stuff, right? Well, I hate the flippy stuff that I see in some independents these days, and even a lot of high-level promotions, where it's a bunch of guys doing a gymnastics floor routine where it's so smooth and choreographed, no one's sweating while they're doing it. It's just an effortless ballet thing. These guys are smashing each other in the face, and they're doing some high-level stuff, but they're grown men. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to change a Mexican cultural phenomenon's style to suit American wrestling or my sensibilities, nor should I, because that's part of the reason why it's MLW Fusion. There was as many fans there to see the Lucha guys as there were to see the American guys there that night. Mm-hmm. So if it's guys, to me, cosplaying a bunch of crazy white boys in pajamas pretending to be luchadors, to me, it gives me sour belches.
Yeah, I hear you.
If legitimate guys doing what they do, then there's a long history of stories that you can tell from their culture and that style, and that's what I need to pick up on. But as far as calling the names of the moves, if it's a guy's finish, I'm going to get it over.
Right.
If the guy names 7 things that he does, and now I'm breaking the rule because the Midnight Express, remember, we had all those different finishes and all those wacky names. But we also had 6 hours of television where we were getting 4 wins every week to use those moves, right? Mm-hmm. Things have slowed down a little bit. If you've got a finish and it's got a name, then that needs to get over, or a big move. Once guys get past naming 2 or 3 of their things, they're just doing it for their own amusement.
They're becoming marks, Corny. They're becoming marks of their own work.
Well, yeah, because you can get a move or a couple of moves over, depending on your style and your placement on television and the ability you have to expose those things. But once you start just naming everything because it has to have a name, past the standard, as you said, headlock and hip toss.
Yeah.
It gets. That's one thing that modern wrestling has become, is a little bit hard for new people to join the club, because of all the nomenclature and the verbiage and the terminologies and they just assume, as Bill Watts sent out that memo one time, gentlemen, I know you are all superstars, but you assume that all the fans know everything. When you cut your promos, do not assume this. Explain to them the stipulations, the reasons, the threats, the promises, the goal, whatever the point of the promo is.
Right.
And I don't think that I think it's too hard for simple people who don't live their life on the internet to follow wrestling these days in a lot of cases. That's why I like the MLW program. It was some smash mouth stuff with some guys that are green, some guys that are veterans, and everybody working hard, and it's easy to watch and easy to explain. You let the wrestling speak for itself.
Right. What do you think of what do you think the long-term future?
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.